Rejection is the invisible chain that controls most people's lives. Machiavelli would tell you, break this chain, and the world bends to you. Right now, there's someone who won't ask their crush out because they fear hearing no. There's a leader who stays quiet in meetings because people might disagree. All of them are prisoners, and their prison guard, the fear of rejection. But what if I told you that rejection isn't your enemy? What if it's actually your secret weapon? In this video, I'll show you how Machiavelli's dark psychology flips rejection into raw power. You'll discover why the most dangerous people in the world actually seek out rejection, and how you can use their exact methods to dominate every area of your life. By the end, you'll understand why fearing rejection makes you weak, manipulable, and forgettable. More importantly, you'll know exactly how to turn rejection into your greatest advantage. Now, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I embrace rejection. Number 1, the psychological trap of rejection. Why most people are weak? They've turned rejection into their master. Your brain treats rejection like a physical attack. When someone says no to you, the same pain centers activate as when you get punched. This isn't weakness, it's biology. But it's also your biggest trap. Scientists have proven this through brain scans. When you experience rejection, your anterior cingulate cortex lights up, the same area that processes physical pain. Your brain literally can't tell the difference between being rejected and being hurt. This response helped your ancestors survive. If your tribe rejected you thousands of years ago, you'd die alone in the wilderness. So, your brain evolved to treat rejection as a life-threatening emergency. But the problem is, you're not living in caves anymore. That ancient alarm system now controls your modern life. It keeps you small, predictable, and weak. Think about this. Every major decision in your life has been shaped by avoiding rejection. The job you didn't apply for because they might say no. The relationship you never started because they might not feel the same way. The business idea you never pursued because investors might laugh. The conversation you never had because people might disagree. You've been trained to see rejection as failure. But that's exactly backwards. What really happens when you fear rejection? You become predictable, controllable, and weak. You start living your life based on what you think others want to hear. You water down your opinions until they're completely meaningless. You shrink your dreams until they fit into other people's comfort zones. You play it safe until you're invisible. And the people in power, they love this. They love that you're so afraid of their no that you'll do anything to avoid it. They love that you'll change your entire personality just to prevent their disapproval. This fear makes you dependent on others for your self-worth. It makes you beg for scraps instead of taking what you deserve. It turns you into a follower instead of a leader. It transforms you from someone who could rule into someone who gets ruled. But the dark truth is, the more you fear rejection, the more you actually get rejected. Desperation has a smell, and people can detect it from miles away. Neediness disgusts them. When you're afraid of their no, they can sense your weakness immediately. They see you trying too hard. They notice you changing your behavior to please them. They watch you walking on eggshells around their opinions. And nothing repels people faster than someone who clearly needs their approval more than they want it. Think about the people you respect most in your life. Do any of them beg for your attention? Do they change their entire personality to make you happy? Do they seem desperate for your approval? Of course not. The people you respect are the ones who seem completely unbothered by whether you accept them or not. This creates a vicious cycle. You fear rejection, so you act needy. Acting needy makes people reject you more. Getting rejected more makes you fear it even more. And the cycle continues until you're completely paralyzed by the possibility of hearing no. Meanwhile, confident people are getting everything they want because they're not trapped in this cycle. They ask for what they want without attachment to the outcome. They speak their truth without caring who agrees. They take risks without being crushed by failure. The difference isn't that confident people don't get rejected. It's that rejection doesn't control them. Machiavelli understood. Fear of rejection is the leash rulers use to control the masses. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Fear cannot control me. Number 2. Machiavelli's perspective on rejection. Machiavelli had a radical view. A man who fears rejection will never command respect. In The Prince, he wrote about power and how to get it, but his deepest insight was this: effective leaders can't afford to be loved by everyone. In fact, trying to please everyone is the fastest way to lose power. Machiavelli once said, "Since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved." What does this mean for you? It means you must be willing to face hostility, criticism, and outright dismissal. You must be prepared for people to reject your ideas, your decisions, and even you personally. Look at history's most powerful figures. Caesar knew the Roman Senate might reject him when he crossed the Rubicon. He did it anyway. Steve Jobs got rejected by his own company's board. He came back and built an empire. What did they all understand? Rejection is just information, not a verdict on your worth. These men didn't avoid rejection. They walked straight into it. They made bold moves knowing full well that people would criticize them, oppose them, try to stop them. Their willingness to face rejection made them untouchable. When you're not afraid of no, people can't use it to control you. When you don't need their approval, you have all the power. Machiavelli once said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." The person who fears rejection is always performing, always pretending to be what they think others want. But the person who embraces rejection, they show their true power. Now, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I am untouchable. Number 3. Dark psychology insight. Rejection as power. Rejection isn't just something to overcome, it's something to weaponize. Most people see rejection as proof they're not good enough, but this is completely backwards. Rejection is actually proof of strength, not weakness. Think about it. Who gets rejected more? The person playing it safe or the person taking big swings? The person following the crowd or the person leading it? The person asking for permission or the person taking what they want? The most successful people get rejected constantly because they're constantly trying things that scare others. They're making bold moves that threaten the status quo. They're refusing to stay in their lane. They're challenging systems that others accept without question. Every great entrepreneur gets rejected by investors. Every revolutionary leader gets rejected by the establishment. Every artist gets rejected by critics. Every innovator gets rejected by people who can't see the future. This is the desensitization principle. The more rejection you face, the more fearless you become. And the more fearless you become, the more persuasive and powerful you are. Think of rejection as emotional weight training. Every no makes you stronger. Every dismissal builds your tolerance. Every time someone tries to shut you down, you develop immunity to their power over you. Most people avoid this training entirely. They stay in their safe zones where rejection is rare. But this leaves them weak and unprepared when they finally do face real challenges. The person who seeks out rejection, on the other hand, becomes bulletproof. They've been shot at so many times that bullets no longer hurt them. They've heard no so often that it loses all power to stop them. When you show complete indifference to rejection, something magical happens. People start chasing your approval instead. Human psychology works in reverse. When you need someone's validation, they lose interest immediately. When you don't care if they accept you or not, they become obsessed with winning you over. This is why the most attractive person at any party is never the one trying hardest to impress everyone. It's the one who seems perfectly content whether people like them or not. They're having fun by themselves. They're not scanning the room for approval. They're not changing their behavior based on others' reactions. The same principle applies to every form of power: business, leadership, influence, relationships. When you're not afraid of losing someone's approval, you suddenly become worth having. People want what they can't easily get. They chase what seems slightly out of reach. They value what isn't freely given to everyone. When you're not desperate for their acceptance, you become the prize they want to win. This creates a complete reversal of power dynamics. Instead of you chasing them, they start chasing you. Instead of you proving your worth to them, they start proving their worth to you. Instead of you being afraid of their rejection, they become afraid of yours. Machiavelli once said, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see and few can feel." People judge you by how you appear to handle rejection, not by whether you actually get rejected. When you show that rejection doesn't touch you, people assume you have something they don't. They assume you have options. They assume you have confidence. They assume you have power. And often, that assumption becomes reality. The person who seems unaffected by rejection is automatically seen as more valuable. People think, what do they know that I don't? What do they have that makes them so secure? Why aren't they desperate like everyone else? This curiosity becomes attraction. This attraction becomes influence, and influence becomes power. But here's what most people miss. You don't actually have to be completely immune to rejection to get these benefits. You just have to appear immune to it. You just have to act like it doesn't control your decisions. Even if rejection still stings a little, you can choose not to let that sting change your behavior. Even if you still feel the disappointment, you can choose to keep moving forward anyway. Even if you still hope for acceptance, you can choose not to beg for it. The key is developing what psychologists call emotional regulation. You feel the emotion, acknowledge it, and then choose your response deliberately instead of reactively. Most people are emotional slaves. They feel rejected, so they act desperate. They feel dismissed, so they beg for attention. They feel criticized, so they change everything about themselves. But powerful people feel the same emotions and choose different responses. They feel rejected and shrug it off. They feel dismissed and double down on their goals. They feel criticized and use it as fuel to prove the critics wrong. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Rejection fuels me. Number 4. Practical Machiavellian tactics. Now let's get practical. Here are 4 rules that will transform how you handle rejection and turn it into your secret weapon. Rule 1. Expect rejection, never beg acceptance. Most people approach every situation hoping for a yes and getting devastated by a no. This is completely backwards. Expect the no. Plan for it. Prepare for it. When you expect rejection, you're never disappointed and sometimes pleasantly surprised. More importantly, when you expect rejection, you don't waste time and energy begging for acceptance. You make your offer, you state your case, and you move on. This confidence is magnetic because it's so rare. Think about how most people ask for things. They hedge their bets. They apologize in advance. They give the other person easy ways to say no. I don't know if you'd be interested, but maybe if you have time and it's not too much trouble. This approach practically guarantees rejection because it shows you don't even believe in what you're asking for. Instead, ask with confidence. Expect that some people will say no, and that's perfectly fine. Their no doesn't mean you're not worth it. It just means they can't see the value or they're not the right fit. When you expect rejection, you can ask bigger. You can take more risks. You can pursue opportunities that scare others because you're not emotionally devastated when some of them don't work out. This expectation also protects you from the emotional manipulation that many people use. When someone acts offended that you asked for something, you're not thrown off balance. You expected this reaction. When someone makes you feel bad for having standards, you don't crumble. You saw it coming. Machiavelli once said, "The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves." One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. Be the fox. Expect the trap of rejection and recognize it when it comes. Be the lion. Don't back down when people try to use rejection to control you. Rule 2. Use rejection strategically. Here's an advanced move that most people never learn. Sometimes reject others to build your own authority and value. When everyone can have your time, attention, or approval, these things become worthless. But when you're selective about who gets access to you, suddenly that access becomes precious. This doesn't mean being cruel or playing games. It means having standards. It means not being available to everyone all the time. It means valuing your time, energy, and attention enough to protect them. Look at exclusive restaurants, private clubs, or limited edition products. They're desirable precisely because they're not available to everyone. The same psychology applies to people. When you occasionally say no to requests, your yes becomes more meaningful. When you turn down some opportunities, people assume the ones you do take must be special. When you don't give your approval freely, earning it becomes an achievement. This strategy works in every area of life. In relationships, the person who's slightly harder to pin down is more interesting than the one who's always available. In business, the consultant who turns away some clients is seen as more expert than the one who takes any project. In leadership, the person who doesn't try to please everyone is respected more than the people pleaser. But here's the key. Your selectivity must be based on real standards, not arbitrary rejection. You're not saying no to be difficult. You're saying no because you have clear criteria for what deserves your time and energy. People can sense the difference between someone who rejects them because they have better options and someone who rejects them just to feel powerful. The first creates respect. The second creates resentment. Rule 3. Display boldness. Never hide from potential rejection. Face it head on. Make the big ask. Take the big swing. Speak the hard truth that others are afraid to voice. People are naturally drawn to boldness because most people are cowards. In a world full of people playing it safe, the person willing to risk rejection stands out like a beacon of confidence. This doesn't mean being reckless or stupid. It means being calculated in your boldness. You understand the odds, you know the stakes. But you don't let fear of rejection stop you from making powerful moves. Bold people get opportunities that cautious people never see. They get invited to bigger tables because they're not afraid to speak up at smaller ones. They get offered better deals because they're willing to walk away from mediocre ones. They attract stronger allies because they're not afraid to challenge weak enemies. When you consistently display boldness in the face of potential rejection, people start to see you differently. They assume you know something they don't. They think you have reasons for your confidence that they can't see. They believe you must have backup plans that make rejection less threatening. This reputation for fearlessness becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more boldly you act, the more people respect you. The more people respect you, the less likely they are to reject you. And the less rejection you face, the easier it becomes to act boldly. But even when bold moves do result in rejection, you still win. You win respect for having the courage to try. You win information about what doesn't work. You win experience that makes future bold moves easier. Machiavelli once said, "The one who neglects what is done for what ought to be done sooner effects his ruin than his preservation." Don't live in the fantasy of what might happen if you're rejected. Deal with reality and make bold moves anyway. The person who acts despite uncertainty will always defeat the person who waits for guarantees. Rule 4. Control the frame. Rejection reflects them, not you. This is the most powerful reframe of all, and it's the difference between people who are destroyed by rejection and people who use it as fuel. When someone rejects you, they're not proving you're not good enough. They're proving they don't recognize value when they see it. They're showing their limitations, not yours. This isn't about arrogance or delusion. It's about maintaining your frame of reference. Your worth isn't determined by other people's ability to recognize it. Think about this logically. The person rejecting you doesn't know you completely. They don't understand your full potential. They don't see your complete vision. They're making a judgment based on limited information and their own biases, fears, and limitations. When someone rejects your business idea, they're showing limited vision for the future. When someone rejects your romantic interest, they're revealing they don't appreciate what you bring to relationships. When someone rejects your leadership, they're demonstrating they prefer to follow someone else, which says nothing about your ability to lead. This frame completely changes how rejection feels. Instead of feeling diminished, you feel sorry for them. Instead of feeling like you failed, you feel like they missed an opportunity. Instead of questioning your worth, you question their judgment. The most successful people in history were rejected constantly by people who couldn't see their potential. Publishers rejected Harry Potter. Record labels rejected the Beatles. Investors rejected countless companies that later became worth billions. Were these rejections accurate assessments, or were they failures of vision by people who couldn't recognize what was right in front of them? When you control the frame this way, rejection becomes feedback about the rejecter, not about you. It tells you who has vision and who doesn't. It reveals who can recognize opportunity and who can't. It shows you who deserves access to what you're offering and who doesn't. Most people who reject you don't really know what they're rejecting. They're responding to surface appearances, first impressions, or incomplete information. Their rejection says nothing about your true value. It only reveals the limits of their perception. This reframe is liberating because it removes the emotional sting from rejection. You're no longer taking it personally because you understand it's not really personal. It's just someone else's limited perspective colliding with your reality. Now, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. Their loss, my gain. Number 5. Ruling through fearlessness. Here's Machiavelli's ultimate lesson. The one who fears no rejection cannot be controlled. Think about the massive difference this makes in every area of your life. Weak people spend their entire existence trying to avoid rejection. They shape every decision around preventing no. They live in constant anxiety about what others might think. They make themselves small to fit into other people's comfort zones. But fearless people, they operate from a completely different reality. They speak their mind because they're not afraid of disagreement. They pursue their goals relentlessly because they're not afraid of failure. They take leadership positions because they're not afraid of criticism. They ask for what they want because they're not afraid of being told no. This fearlessness becomes their greatest asset in every situation. While others are paralyzed by the possibility of rejection, they're taking action. While others are seeking permission from authority figures, they're taking control and becoming the authority. While others are waiting for approval from the crowd, they're creating results that make approval irrelevant. And here's what happens. People start following them. Not because they're perfect, but because they're fearless. Not because they never get rejected, but because rejection doesn't stop them from moving forward. Think about the leaders you admire most. Do they seem worried about what their critics think? Do they change their message based on who might disagree? Do they water down their vision to make it more acceptable to people who will never understand it anyway? Of course not. They state their truth and let others decide whether to accept it or reject it. They pursue their goals and let others decide whether to help or hinder. They live their values and let others decide whether to respect them or dismiss them. This creates a magnetic effect. People are naturally drawn to those who seem immune to the fears that control everyone else. They want to be around someone who doesn't need their approval because that freedom is intoxicating. When you stop fearing rejection, you become the person who decides what's acceptable, not the person seeking acceptance. You become the person who sets standards, not the person desperately trying to meet everyone else's standards. You become the person others want to impress, not the person constantly trying to impress others. This is the ultimate power flip. Instead of being controlled by the fear of rejection, you use rejection as information to guide your decisions. Instead of avoiding situations where you might be told no, you deliberately put yourself in those situations to practice your fearlessness. You start to see rejection as a filter that separates the people who can recognize your value from those who can't. You begin to understand that being rejected by the wrong people is actually protection from wasting your time and energy on relationships, opportunities, or situations that weren't right for you anyway. The moment you stop fearing rejection, you stop playing by others' rules. You start writing your own. You become someone who creates opportunities instead of waiting for them. You become someone who builds systems instead of hoping to be accepted into existing ones. You become someone who attracts followers instead of begging to be included in other people's groups. This transformation doesn't happen overnight, but it starts the moment you decide that other people's opinions won't control your actions anymore. It accelerates every time you face rejection and keep moving forward anyway. It solidifies every time you realize that the people who rejected you missed out on something valuable. Stop fearing rejection, and you don't just survive, you rule. Look, most people will never apply what you just learned. They'll watch this video, nod along, and then go right back to living in fear. They'll keep avoiding the big asks, shrinking from bold moves and letting the fear of no control their entire lives. But you're different. You understand now that rejection isn't your enemy, it's your weapon. You know that the people who get everything they want are the ones who aren't afraid to be told no. Every no you get is practice. Every rejection you face is training. Every time someone dismisses you, you're building the exact skill that separates winners from losers, the ability to keep going when others would quit. The world is full of opportunities, but they're all guarded by the possibility of rejection. Most people see that guard and turn away, but now you know the secret. That guard only has power over people who fear it. Walk through rejection like it's not even there. Treat no like it's just another word. Act like their approval is nice but not necessary. Do this, and you'll discover something incredible. You don't need anyone's permission to take what you want. You don't need anyone's approval to be who you are. And you definitely don't need to fear anyone's rejection to live the life you deserve. Remember Machiavelli's words, "The one who fears no rejection cannot be controlled." If this video changed how you see rejection, hit that like button right now. Share it with someone who needs to stop living in fear, and subscribe to this channel for more insights. Your journey from fear to fearlessness starts now. Stop fearing rejection. Start ruling everything.